So with the concept of Alix in place, so I knew how she looked, how she acted, I had to try and get a voice for her and try and figure out how she'd physically look in the game world and actually how she would move as well. So right from the very get-go, I needed to try and figure out what a voice was. So from the very start, it was trying to figure out what she sounded like. I had a kind of inkling to what she was like. I kind of heard her as a bit of a New Yorker, but not too kind of strong on the New York accent. But talking to James Alexander, the guy that does Nathan's voice, he recommended Susan Taylor, and I had a chat with her, and I found out that she was pretty much spot on. She basically wanted to know what she was like, who she was, and what she did with her life. So I basically said, well, make her more like from the Bronx, more of a American type. And she nailed it, and she's kind of got this kind of Bronx Jewish kind of accent, which I think is awesome. So it just fit her pretty well, that she's just cynical, sarcastic, and it was great. I thought that is Alix spot on. So I essentially gave her a few lines to try, and the major one that I wanted to see if she could do was, "There's nothing as romantic as the rain."
There's nothing as romantic as the rain, is there?
Yeah. I can't stand it either.
I was going to use a mocap suit, but because of the learning curve with that was such a short time for the project, that kind of got left on the floor. So what I used was an Xbox 360 Connect and something called IPI Motion Recorder. So what it does is it just picks up where you are in your own world, in your house, and it's markerless. And it picks it up somewhat okay, but you'll find if you turn around or your arm goes behind your back, it'll basically make the mesh go completely weird. So that was a big, huge thing. So after getting that, it was then actually taking it into Maya and fixing up the FBX and making it work. So using that little piece of audio and an example like base mesh as well. So I believe it was an Overwatch character. It worked. It really worked. So I thought, great, we've got the voice. We just need to make the mesh now to make it work properly. So what happened was I got a base mesh, a free one, and then started to create the hair from it. So basically just make it different. So it wasn't much of an actual change from the original base mesh, but it actually did change it just because of the hair. So it was a free base mesh and just changed it from there. The next aspect of it was the material that was applied to Alix. What I was finding was that actually giving her clothes and actually just making her have a black texture, it just made her look weird in the world, and it just did not look right. So what happened was that actually just to basically make her unlit. So she just didn't have any features at all. So she was just completely dark black. So the silhouette would only be accentuated by the movements from the mocap. So that basically was everything that needed. So from using the stuff from Twine and finding out which scenes needed mocap, then you could actually just basically get a few actors just to stand around and actually act out the pieces. So there was 3 actors. There was me. You can kind of tell when it's me because she kind of has a bit of a over accentuated walk, which needed fixing in Maya. There was my friend Gemma. She basically did a few scenes where like she's basically walking around, and I think she did the actual suicide scene as well. And my partner Kirsty, when she's actually walking around just doing a lot of the idle animations. Thankfully for where she's actually positioned in the world, you don't have to see her feet, because that was one of the things that was a huge problem with using this markerless technique. It just did not pick up feet right. So thankfully using the wall was a good way to cover that up, so you never really got to see the actual feet. So you can see it's been a big learning curve to learn markerless mocap, which is a very strange thing to do, but it has worked, and I think it looks pretty decent in the grand scheme of things. So all good.